Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. I am Dan. I'm here to talk to you about the DCU, and today I'm actually talking about something that might feel a little negative, but I think it's a relatively relevant point to make. And the question I'm going to pose is, you've already seen the thumbnail, you've already seen the title of this video, so you know what we're talking about. But let me start by asking you the question: should DC abandon the connected universe? They've had 3 flops in a row. They have not had a movie make more than $500 million, more than $400 million at the box office since the first Aquaman movie did in 2018. That first Aquaman movie in 2018 made $1 billion. No movie in the DCEU no movie in the DCEU since has made more than $400 million. However, the 2 DC movies that have come out in that time that were not connected to the larger universe, the DCEU, they both made plenty of money. In fact, let me get to my first point here. The first point that I'm going to make is the Batman and Joker made $1.83 billion. Guess how much money the last 7 DCEU movies have made combined? $1.57 billion. That's 7 movies making $1.57 billion, and then the 2 not connected movies that are, Batman and Joker, who weren't part of the DCEU, making $1.83 billion. That's a difference of what? That's like what, $160 million? No, not even. That's like $260 million. That's a big difference. That's basically the box office of The Flash right now, I think. It's twice the box office of Shazam 2. That's a big difference, particularly like if you could project that out and say, okay, well, if they just gave up the idea of the connected universe and then they just decided to do these standalone or these separate continuity movies, like the sequel to the Joker Folia Dude is still not connected to the DCEU. The Batman Part 2 will still not be part of the DCU. So if they continue doing that, how much money will 7 of those movies make? The first Joker made $1 billion. The first Batman, made like $700 and something million, almost $800 million worldwide. And both of those movies have the sequels for both of those movies have the potential to repeat that success, if not build on it and do even better. And even if they fall off a little bit, they'll still be doing a lot better than the average DCU movie has done of late. So yeah, there's definitely a big financial incentive there potentially for the executives at Warner Brothers and DC Studios to think, hey, maybe we don't need a connected universe. We've had a lot of success. Now the sample size is smaller, 2 movies versus the last 7, it's still, I think that's a pretty good reason. Hollywood loves its money, as does every business. And so I think there's very good reason there for them to maybe abandon this idea of a connected universe altogether. Now the second reason why I think they should at least be thinking about abandoning the connected universe concept is the fact that, look, even the MCU is struggling for success nowadays. Even they have been very hit or miss of late. And it seems like they either ran out of ideas or what they were doing earlier is just not working the same way. They sort of doubled down on the wrong things. I think the multiverse concept they've kind of beat to death and not done it in a way that I think is, does the multiverse concept, at least the way I like to believe in it, scientifically speaking. I don't think they've done it justice. They've kind of boiled it down to some very simple elements and basically a lot of forced fan service and cameos and all that stuff, which it works at times, like it did for Spider-Man No Way Home, like to the tune of almost $2 billion. But it also doesn't work a lot of other times, like in Quantumania. And that movie didn't even make $500 million. So, which, hey, the amount of money that movie made, DC movies would kill to make that right now, but still, the point stands that the MCU is struggling too. And I think like after being around for almost 2 decades at this point, they are starting to feel the constriction of being in this connected universe and having the weight of all the projects that have come before. Every new project has to take into account at least some of what has happened before in that universe. And that tends to be restricting. And that's my third point here. Look, solo films give filmmakers more creative freedom. That's just a basic fact. It's true. You can do whatever you want. You can be as creative, take your own vision and give your own take on a character and that universe. Look at Matt Reeves and the Batman. Look at Todd Phillips and Joker. What they did with those 2 movies is wholly unique to those films. And those are 2 characters, Batman and the Joker, that have had multiple previous iterations on our cinema screens. You've had like a dozen almost Batman movies come out already. The Joker has had 3 or 4 other mainstream iterations, including Heath Ledger's Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker, even like the the 60s TV show with Adam West. They had a version of the Joker there. You've had so many iterations of that character, and yet Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips were able to create something wholly unique for their iteration. Something different, something new, something refreshing, something that made $1 billion at the box office with a budget of less than 100 million. That's insane. That's like Warner Brothers was walking to the bank, and they would have been running to the bank if they didn't split the production costs in half with another outside investor. If they had like put up the entire money themselves, trying to attenuate the risk of what they thought would have been a huge flop, they would have been running to the bank because they would have made even more money. But the Batman, clearly that worked. I think I have to be honest, that Batman movie, The Batman with Robert Pattinson, is probably like the best Batman film we have seen since the Dark Knight trilogy, since The Dark Knight in 2008. In my top 5 of Batman movies, The Batman lands somewhere in the top 3. I think is better than at least one of those Dark Knight trilogy movies. I still think The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie of all time. It's one of the best movies of all time, period. If not the best, in my opinion. But The Batman is up there. And the fact that they were able to do that without having the constriction of, oh, this is a world where we have a Superman, or there's a Wonder Woman that exists here. Oh, there's a Ezra Miller's Flash, or a Flash in general. There is some other DC character that lives 2 cities away, 2 blocks away. They don't have to worry about an event like the Zod battle with Superman at Metropolis that changed the world, affecting what they're doing in their movies. And that's something that every Marvel project feels. It feels like since Avengers Endgame, every Marvel story in the MCU has had to deal with the blip in some way or another, or be affected by it, or tell a story that in some way is different because they have to account for the blip. And if you make these solo movies, even if it's a team movie, as long as it exists in its own continuity and it doesn't connect to any of larger shared cinematic universe, you have the freedom to do what you want and kind of give it your own take creative risks. Sure, you're not always going to hit. Just because they hit with the Batman and Joker doesn't mean that even their sequels, the Batman Part 2 and Joker Folie à Deux, are going to be the same caliber of a hit. But you can certainly, do your best. And if you flop, then you not have to worry about carrying that baggage with you, because all of a sudden, like the Thor: The Dark World, that's still on your record, and the MCU didn't just reset. So that movie does exist in the timeline. It's part of the canon. So I think like those are a lot of the reasons why there's some very good points, good reasons why Warner Brothers should consider potentially abandoning the idea of the connected universe. Look, there's still, I think, reasons why they should continue on with the DCU, because I think the way James Gunn has outlaid the plans is very different than anything we saw from the MCU or have been seeing or have seen from the MCU up till this point. And it's a different kind of an approach. The only similarity is that, of course, there's going to be a shared continuity across multiple projects. They're going to be connected. But as long as they're able to tell good stories, ultimately, at the end of the day, look, as long as you're telling good stories, making good movies that are well written, have good VFX, are produced technically really, really well, and they're not movies that, that are gonna bore you to death, or that run too long, or don't have a wide-ranging audience, because superhero movies are generally meant to appeal to a wider audience. Or if you're gonna appeal to a niche audience, then you adjust your budget accordingly. You can't make a movie that has a potential to make at best $500 million at the box office for $200 million, and then spend another $100 marketing it. You're not gonna make money. You're gonna lose money. That's not gonna be a profitable film. So I think financially, there's good reasons to continue making a cinematic universe, and I do think the DCU will be different than what we've seen before. I fully trust James Gunn to make sure of that. I don't think he's in his role. Peter Safran's not there for them to just repeat what has come before and try to copy like what Marvel has done. They're trying to do their own thing. Granted, they're kind of going on a similar track, but look, there's still, the point stands. There's some pretty good reasons why DC, especially if Superman Legacy fails, maybe from that point onwards, they should just abandon the idea of the connected universe. Maybe. there's certainly a lot of good reasons, and who knows, by then we will have the Batman Part 2 and Joker Folie à Deux already out in theaters and having made their money. So if those two movies, those sequels, make as much money or a similar amount of money or even more than their predecessors, then that sample size grows, and only furthering the argument in favor of this, non-connected individual solo continuity sort of films that stand on their own in their own worlds. You can always cross them over. Like back in the day, you used to have TV shows crossover that were like produced by the same production company, but sort of their own thing. But every once in a while, they'd cross them over. I mean, growing up, I loved those episodes where Hannah Montana, Zack and Cody, and That's So Raven, like all of those shows kind of crossed over. Those are fun. They were fun. You can always do a Crisis on Infinite Earths and bring them together, but you don't have to, be tied down to a connected universe all the time. So yeah, look, there's pretty good reason why they maybe should think about abandoning the idea of a connected universe at DC, especially if Superman Legacy fails. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think they should just continue at Warner Brothers and DC Studios with the new DCU? I don't think anything we say here is going to change their mind per se, but it's a good conversation worth having. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think, whether they should just abandon the connected universe at DC and even at Marvel, or if they should continue on with the DCU. This is DCU Daily, of course. I wonder what I'm going to be doing if there is no DCU anymore. I don't know, maybe we could call it DC Daily. Doesn't have the same ring to it. I'll think about it. You guys tell me if that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, and then like and subscribe, of course. I'll be back here. I'm back here Monday to Friday, talking all things DC, reviews, previews, talking about the newest movie trailers. Blue Beetle's coming out soon. Aquaman's coming out later this year. So yeah, got lots to look forward to. And until the next one, it's been Dan, and I'll see you back here on DCU Daily.